Probably the receiver. Hey, there I am. Hello, I'm back.
I had to go put my shoes on.
Cold?
Yeah, it's always cold in here.
How's everybody? Good? Man, it's good to see you guys. I have to be honest, I didn't want to come back. I looked at the weather on my phone and I was like, oh, I'm not coming. I talked to Dad. Was it Saturday? Friday or Saturday? We were leaving Amarillo. It was 59, and Dad said, the heat index here is like 113. I said, well, I'm going west out of Amarillo.
Going the other way.
So anyway, I got to visit with my brother and sister-in-law, and that was fun. I hadn't seen my brother a whole lot. He just retired from the Marines and moved back to California, so it was really a good trip. So I think we had a good time. I think this is the first time we ever took the kids on a trip that it wasn't a nightmare. Anybody ever took the kids on a road trip?
It
always sounds good, right? But then the smell from the back seat is just unbelievable. My mom says, yeah, I know that smell. We're going to finish up on our marriage series today. And I called today's little talk, What is Love? You know, like, baby, don't hurt me. Go ahead. No, okay. I'm going to read this because you guys probably don't have it. I'm in 1 Corinthians 13, but I'm in the Message Bible because it's just cool. And how many guys that are married had 1 Corinthians 13 at your wedding? Like a lot of preachers, wedding doers, say that at weddings. I'm a wedding doer sometimes, so I've said that before. But it gets so dry when you've read it so many times in the same thing, like, it just kind of loses something. So I like to read things in the Message. I encourage you to read your Bible, but to always switch translations, because you can read the same thing and it becomes, especially if you've read the same translation for a long time, you just kind of skim over words. Switch it up, and then you have to actually stop and read it and take in what it's saying, and it's good for us. And God will speak to you in different ways. But 1 Corinthians 13 in the Message, it says this. It says, break out your phone. No. This is a modern church, right? The way of love. This is Paul writing to the church in Corinthians. It says, if I speak with human eloquence and angelic ecstasy, but I don't love, then I'm nothing but the creaking of a rusty gate. If I speak God's word with power and reveal all his mysteries, making everything plain as day, and if I have faith that says to mountains, jump, and it jumps, but I don't love, then I'm nothing. If I give everything I own to the poor, and even go to the stake to be burned as a martyr, but I don't love, I've gotten nowhere. So no matter what I say, what I believe, what I do, I'm bankrupt without love. Love never gives up. Love cares more for others than for self. Love doesn't want what it doesn't have. Love doesn't strut. Doesn't have a swelled head, doesn't force itself on others, isn't always me first, doesn't fly off the handle, doesn't keep score of the sins of others, doesn't reveal when others grovel, takes pleasure in the flowering of the truth, puts up with anything, trusts God always looks for the best and never looks back, but keeps going till the end. Love never dies. Inspired speech will be over someday. Prayer in tongues will end. Understanding will reach its limits. We know only a portion of the truth, and what we say about God is always incomplete. But when the complete arrives, our incompleteness will be canceled. When I was an infant at my mother's breast, I gurgled and cooed like an infant. And when I grew up, I left those infant ways for good. We don't yet see things clearly. We're squinting in a fog, peering through a mist. But it won't be long before the weather clears, the sun shines bright, and we'll see it then, see it all as clearly as God sees us, knowing Him directly just as He knows us. But for right now, until that completeness, we have three things to do to lead us toward that consummation. Trust steadily in God, hope unswervingly, and love extravagantly. And the best of these is love. That's pretty good. It's different, huh? A lot of times, I think the greatest human need we have is to be loved, and it's also the hardest thing to do. And the incompleteness and the fog of not understanding love, not only not understanding love to love, but to be loved. Like we just don't even understand how to be loved. And it's one of those things that we as human beings crave deep in our souls. See, man was created and God said that it wasn't good that he was alone. Like when God created man, He said he needs companionship because, well, God's invisible. And we need somebody with skin on to love us, right? And it helps. It makes us feel it more. But the problem with that, so God created a partner, and it was so we can give and receive love and experience with skin on the love that God has for us through others. And so if you're flying solo and through life and you're avoiding relationships and avoiding friends and avoiding everything, and because you're scared because you've been hurt or because you've been abandoned or whatever it is, you're missing out on knowing the love of God. Because you have no one to invest love in. If you're guarded, you can't truly love. You can be nice and you can be kind and you can be all those things, but you can't love. Love leaves us completely vulnerable. And it puts everything out there, and it's tough. And it's tough to understand. Love, I've always said this, that love is sacrifice. Love means laying down your own desires, your own heart, your own security even, your own protection, and giving away the best of yourself to those around you. And this is what makes the world a better place, what we were called to. Jesus loved us so that we would be able to receive the love of God. His love was sacrifice. A lot of people say, well, the Jews killed Jesus. No, the Romans killed Jesus. No, Jesus laid down nobody killed Jesus. Jesus laid down himself because God loves us that much. He loves us that much. And we can't comprehend and we can't connect with a love like that because we don't understand it. And we try it, but we tried and we work in vain and we spin our wheels and we get tired and we get worn out and we get broke down because we don't understand what it is even about. And sometimes we have emotions and we get emotional and we say that's love, but love isn't really that. I think the emotions sometimes are a side effect of love, but love, I've never known sacrifice to be emotionally wowing. You know what I mean? Like emotionally, love just doesn't feel like the goody butterfly, puppy lovey, whatever. And so love is tough, and it's tough to understand, and it's tough to get. Sometimes when we love someone so much, we don't feed their addictions. We don't feed the things that are killing them. God, a lot of people don't understand sin, okay? God says a lot of things are sin, and we don't understand sin. If you've been to a fundamentalist church, you've been taught your whole life that sin sets God against you. Well, God said, I've cast your sin as far as the east is from west. Remember the cross? Y'all forget about that thing? That was an important thing, right? Do you realize that Jesus reconciled humanity to God? And God said, I have forgotten your sin. So what are all these rules? What are all these commands? What are all this? The sin thing is about love. God doesn't want us to suffer. And He knows that these things cause suffering among the people that He loves the most. And so He says, don't do this because it's going to hurt you. And I desperately don't want you to have to live through the consequences of these actions. But we do it anyway because nobody's going to tell us what we can't do. And so we go straight into it. And so sometimes love is just saying no. You know, if you're a parent, you may have seen or experienced this. Mom, I want to go play with the campfire. All right, that looks like fun. No, we're not like that, right? It's like, I don't think that's a good idea. Why, Mom? Why, please? Fire looks so good. Man, when I was a kid, I was a firebug. My mom said I'd either be a fireman or an arsonist. And I just loved it, man. I just couldn't stay away from it. And the thing is, we see, as parents, we see the consequences of actions, and we know fire hurts. But for a kid, man, you're limiting my fun. Right? You're just stopping me from having fun. Nobody wants to let me have fun. Well, it's because we love. And so sometimes love is like that. And so and that kind of love don't feel like the boyfriend, girlfriend, you know, will you go with me, check yes or no, you know, and it's like, those didn't turn out well for me, by the way. Because
I always put maybe in there too.
Mine always came back no, because it's easier to say no on a piece of paper. So I was like, this is dumb. Just ask direct. They can't say no to your face. That's how I got married. In this whole chit-chat, non-face-to-face world, man, you can say anything you want. People will reject you all the time. Get face-to-face. People have a hard time rejecting you face-to-face. That's what I've found. That's a whole different thing. Another reason to stay off social media. So love gets funky, and so Paul gives us this thing of some of his ideas in its kind of poetic way of what this love really looks like. But just because we don't understand it doesn't mean that we don't crave it. Even if you've isolated yourself, a lot of the depression comes from craving love, but unwilling to risk it, to let anybody know you or to know anyone else. Because if they know me, then they won't like me. If they know me, then they'll, it'll be, then I'll be obligated or stuck. And relationships, they're tough. And it's tough with your kids, it's tough with your friends, but it's tough in marriage too. And usually about the time where you get to know each other is where marriages break down. And so, like, when you're dating, everybody's putting up, like, I'm the greatest, and she's the greatest, and we're the greatest, and we get married, we're going to have the greatest. And then all of a sudden, man, you're like, I don't like her. I don't like her at all. And pretty sure she don't like me. And so then we go through this getting to know each other phase, and it's like, what happened to that romance, and that, puppy love, the kind of love that's easy.
They're so cute.
Babies are easy to love, you notice that? But then, man, they grow up. Like, I want to end you. No. So it gets tough. But today I want to talk to you very specifically in tangible detail on how to express love in a healthy way, and how to receive love. And it is in the understanding of the communication of love. We have to understand when our spouse or our friend or our kid is telling us they love us, and we're telling them we love them, but neither one of them are landing. So our hearts are becoming bankrupt, and we're empty, and we're hurting, and we're lonely, and we're suffering, we're struggling, we're going through all these emotions of, I'm being rejected, I'm not loved, nobody cares, nobody wants me, and I'm just alone in this. And everybody's feeling this way, but at the same time, you're shouting, I love you, I love you, I love you, and they're shouting, I love you, I love you, I love you, and it's just not landing. And so today, hopefully, we can walk through kind of how to make it land. And you can take this, and this is about marriage, and it's very important in marriage. Like, love is important in marriage, right? Like, I don't know if you guys are clued in on that. I just kind of left that one out there. But love is kind of important in marriage, but loving your kids is very important too, and loving your friends is very important too, and being able to receive your kids' love when you don't think they care, or you think they may kill you in your sleep, or whatever. And so you need to know when your kids are crying out for love. That's our kids, we're like, that's a bad kid. That's a kid crying out for love. Most kids who are really mischievous are screaming, somebody love me, and I'll take it any way I can get it. And we have to understand what is going to impact. How can I make you feel and know that I care? And so we're gonna talk about real and tangible things that.
Mr. Chapman wrote the book. I think we talked about in the very, very beginning of the series. We talked about a lot of stuff back then. It's been forever.
I went to California since then. I don't even know what I talked about.
Longest series ever. Yeah. He wrote a book, The 5 Love Languages, and he's a counselor. And so he counseled for years and years, and he found that there's these 5 certain ways that people feel love and express love, after all his counseling. And so he wrote a book about this. And it's really, really a good book. I encourage you to do it. In fact, your assignment at the end of the message today should be to go home and get on Google and Google this test and take it if you haven't. Even if you have, because you change. You'll change. So Google the test and just take it online so that you know what you are, you know what your spouse is. And then there's also one for kids. Very important that you know that your kids' love language is as well. In fact, I do that. I'm that way at the gym because I coach, and I want to know what some parents I'll ask them, if I have that connection with the parent, I can ask. But a lot of times I can, just by reading that book, and when we talk about these 5 different ways, I can see what kids, how they express love. I can tell, even as a coach. And so I will make sure that I try to express the love the same way to them, because it makes them really comfortable in who they are, and they perform like really good. They want to do better. But whenever I've noticed, you'll have certain coaches that'll talk to a kid a way that, say words of affirmation is their love language, and then the coach will say something negative to the child, like, don't you ever point, you need to point your toes or whatever. It will shut them down, actually, and they won't even try for you. So I use that in everyday life. I think you guys should too. It's really good. But let's talk about what the 5 love languages actually are. So you might want to jot this down. One of them is words of affirmation, like what I just talked about. Compliments or words of encouragement. Anything like, I like your shirt, you look good in that shirt, I like your beard, it's cool, it's different. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Giving these compliments
I
are
affirm
great.
that you affirm me.
Okay.
That's
And
communication.
that was great communication. Yes, we need to work on that. Yes, that's good.
You know, but for some people that means nothing. Like, I mean, you could tell them, man, you look awesome, and they're like,
okay.
hitting on me? Freak. It's like, you know, it's not everybody's love language, but, you know, if it is, to criticize actually is, it's the exact opposite. It's hate.
So if you have, okay, put it this way, if you have your love tank, he talks about this is great, and you're going to put deposits in your tank or you're going to pull them out. You're going to have negative in your love tank. A lot of times, like if your love language is words of affirmation and like he says something opposite of that, says something, you know, really mean or hateful or whatever, then the love tank that he had, you know, any credit that was there, I just took it, it just went out. And so the tank drops, you know.
And don't think you fill the tank and man, you're good for a while. Like, I'm off for a week. You're not. Like,
Never off.
I would say that within at least 24 hours, you can deplete a tank completely. Like, especially if you're not in a long-term, very committed, like you've been at this a while and you understand this a while. But when it's all new, man, you can get full fast and empty fast. And that it depends on your emotional state, your age, you know, your sex. Like the women and men are way different in that. I'm like, women's tanks are like that and men's tanks are like, you know, more, just not, men aren't as emotionally flip-floppy. I don't know if that's a word, but that's a good one. Write that down. Emotionally flip-floppy. And sometimes it's just general terms. Man, I know so many couples where the woman's the man and the man's the woman. Like, not in that weird way, you know. That would be weird. Like, no, that's a whole different, we won't talk about it.
Okay. Come back. So words
Is
of
that
affirmation.
wrong? No, I'm just,
Just stop. Words of affirmation. That's a one that you need. If your kids always are like, look at me, mom, watch, watch. See what I did. They're looking for, oh, that's great. They're looking for that affirmation from you.
I think both of my kids are really because you can destroy. If you're talk negative to my kids, you destroy them in their life.
Yeah, you can
Ella
just see
does this. She'll
the drop in the
closes her shoulders down, drops her head. I mean, it's like somebody beat her with a 2x4 or something.
Yes.
So
Words of affirmation. Another one's quality time, and that's having your friend, or your kid, or your spouse's undivided
attention. Is
This right here,
last night.
huh? Okay. Yeah.
Last night we were laying in bed.
Okay.
And I got an email from her.
I did. Well, I was emailing him about the message for today.
That is not undivided attention. That's roundabout attention.
Yeah.
Through signals and wires and not. The thing is, man, you need time to spend. Look, our society, you guys realize our society is struggling because no one has anybody's undivided attention. Have you gone to a restaurant? I don't even remember the last time I was in a restaurant that did not have a TV in the corner. Why do they have TVs in the corner? Because the crowd demands it. Because I am not going to sit here and talk to her for an hour while I eat. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to go to a restaurant that takes an hour because I'm not going to spend it. You know, I want my food. I want it now. I want to fast. I want to eat. I want to watch TV, catch up on the news, keep up with Twitter, all while and that is not quality time. And our society craves quality time. our kids crave quality time. I turned the radio off. I got home yesterday and was driving with Ella in my truck and turned the radio off, and she was just talking to me, and like, she's fascinating to have a conversation with, but so many times, you know, I'm in the middle of a text or an email, or somebody's demanding something else from me, and she is neglected that time of just me focused on her, and it's so healthy. And I realized just sitting there talking to her in a truck that, man, these are the times that are important in life. Like, this is the stuff that makes life, you know. And I'd say I regret, but I don't. I do regret being so busy, and the church consumed so much of our lives when Justice was little. And I don't, you know, I'm not saying we neglected her, we brought her along, but it was, you know, it was a mistake. It was something that, like, you wish, like, I need to just sit down and have those conversations, but your spouse is demanding those conversations too. And when there's a book, Lisa
TerKeurst.
Okay.
Her newest book.
Well, I got to listen to it for 3 or 4 hours on the way home. And anyway, she said something that
It was
really
a little awkward
hit me.
at times too, because she talks about girly stuff.
Women.
Yeah. But anyway.
Oh, I learned a lot from the book. Like, women be crazy. And that's good to know, guys. Just keep a straitjacket around and you'll be cool. Safe. Anyway, she said, and this is something I didn't realize, but quality time gets taken away because of most of the time demands on our life. And a lot of people in our life are like this, in my life, and I'm sure in your life too. But what God has given us and equipped us for to love is CPR and love. When people have things, I mean, it's you need, and it's CPR and take care of it. You know, the emotional, the ministry, all of that. But we aren't equipped to be people's lifeline. You cannot be connected and carry the life for people, all these people in your life. You can't do it. And if you try to do that, you're going to deplete yourself, and you will not ever be fully present for the people that are closest to you. We only have so much of ourselves to give away. And the primary part of giving that away should be to your spouse and your children.
I think Amber and Scott actually talked about that last week. That, you know, they worked at a church and were busy all the time, like, you know, and she had to stop and, you know, quit her job and stop and stay home with Hannah and prepare the house for Scott, and you know, they made sacrifices and choices to do that, and so it's good.
And we were talking about love, you know, earlier, and that is the place where if you got these life suckers in your life, little sucker fish, you know, you seen them? Like, and they all attach to you, and they're just like all the time. You're not loving them either. You are supporting their habits, and so it's healthy to truly love someone. Sometimes you got to just say, "Hey, enough's enough," and make them stand up on their own too. But you have to create those boundaries. Boundaries is another great book. A lot of, probably, I would say over half of the people in this room right now have boundary issues. Probably most of the people in here are people pleasers. Just like always worried
rejection.
about, always worried about who's saying what about you, and are you the center of everybody's world or whatever. And you know, it's like, and that goes into control issues, and you know, yeah. And it's fear-based and rejection, but Boundaries is a great book. I think it's Dr. Cloud. I'm pretty sure, wrote a book called Boundaries. And I would suggest that for anybody who's got people pleaser, that you're people pleasing to the point it's stealing your own life and you're frustrated with yourself because you can't stop pleasing people.
Can't say no.
And man, those two little letters, no, are huge, huge letters. And so that all goes back to quality time. I'm sorry, I get sidetracked a lot.
Your quality time is ticking up there,
I know,
too.
I know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
This is one of Celia's love languages is receiving gifts, and these gifts are not like, hey, babe, I got you a new dishwasher. Or, you know, man, I just bought you a vacuum cleaner.
That's not a good.
That's not a good gift. These are I love you gifts. And so to understand that people like relate that you would sacrifice and give to me says you love me. And people, you'll always know who this person is in your life, whether it's your spouse or your friend or your kids. They're always giving you stuff. Always giving you stuff. You go shopping and they're like, that'd be great for this person. That'd be great for this person. I should get that for that person. And those
or your
people,
kids are like, look at this painting.
and
Here,
that's
Mommy,
because
I made you a painting. I made you this. You know,
they're screaming, I love
brought you
you.
a flower.
And I'm not a gifts person, so I don't think about giving gifts, and I sure don't think about receiving gifts. So it's like
You need to learn.
I know. I know I do.
After 25 years,
Hey,
you
I
would
got
think.
you. Remember that day I got you roses?
I do. I do remember that day. Yeah, see? I do remember that. It was great.
I thought that should have lasted a few years.
It's not how it works. It's not how it works.
Tank full.
Then tank empty now.
Break it off. But man, and you can think about yourself a lot of in our world today to be someone whose gifts is your language of saying I love you. You know, it sounds kind of prideful or like, you know, materialistic. It's not materialistic. It could be a rock. I mean, it could be literally anything. And a note, just it's saying I think about you when I'm not with you.
And two, somehow this is a way that you can see what what his is or mine is. But if I get like whatever your spouse is complaining about, kind of think about that because that's usually their love language. If I complain, you forgot my birthday, or you didn't even give me a Christmas gift, then I'm complaining about
Here we go again.
I'm just saying.
Listen to me, everybody. I need witnesses right now. Her birthday is coming up on October 10th, 9th. I meant the 9th. Hey, I know things.
That's Amber's birthday, isn't it?
October 9th.
Oh, that's Sam's birthday. The
Okay.
10th.
Okay,
Yeah, okay.
Here's the thing, and I want everybody to know this. I got her a cruise for her birthday.
Yes.
So
You
I don't
did.
want to hear you
Yes.
didn't get me nothing for my birthday
That's
when we
true.
get back from
No,
the cruise.
I was talking about Christmas. Remember Christmas 2 years ago?
Yeah, I do. I remember you saying, let's just don't get gifts this year because we don't have any money.
But to anybody that knows that I'm a gift giver, that means
Whose
really
love
get me a
language
gift.
is also financial security. Just pick your poison and take it.
Well, an ornament would have been fine. A love letter would have been fine. That was free. So anyway,
See, this is what I'm talking about.
this is how the love
Gifts
tank
are important
works.
to people whose thing
Love
is
language
gifts.
is gifts.
And so,
Yes.
Let's move on.
Moving on. Okay, number 4. The fourth one, there's only 5. The fourth one is acts of service. This could be, a lot of women think that's them, but setting the table, walking the dog, or doing small jobs for the person.
I think this is one of mine because I think
It
not,
is.
Not that I see it as that receiving that, but that's what I do for people. And
that's what he complains about.
Yeah, and here's the thing. This is the one that will steal your life from you if that is your love language. If you are constantly doing acts of service and don't have boundaries, you're in trouble. Like if acts of service is your love language and you have no boundaries, man, you just forget your own life. That's all there is to it. So you have to find the healthy boundary, but still serving people. And it's tricky. But even in that, and what's the last one? I can't remember.
Physical touch. How
Physical
could you not
touch.
remember that one?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I like that one.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, man, my oldest daughter, Justice.
She's here. We'll
She
pick on her.
is up in your business all the time. She has to be touching you, against
beside you.
If we go eat, I'll tell you this, we'll go to lunch after church. And if she is not in the center of what's going on, man, nobody loves her. Everybody just hates her. And so you'll know these people in your life. If you've got a little kid that's always wanting to hug, like always, or just touch you or hold on to you, or just, and that, man, they're screaming out, this is how you tell me you love me. And it's very important to realize that, because listen, when this thing goes bad, this is where girls get in trouble. This is where guys do too, but guys won't admit it because it's cool. But if they don't get that physical affection at home, they'll get it from anybody that'll give it to them. And then they equate that with love, and then they get their hearts ripped out over and over and over and over and over, and it's very, very destructive. It's a destructive way to be. It's a destructive pattern. But just not even that physical touch, for if that's your love, if that's what you call love, man, to not respond or not want to hold hands or not want to hug or not want to kiss or whatever, man, that's just like saying, I don't really care about you. Just do things for me. Okay, this is how our different languages work. Like, I'm just doing all this stuff for you and you won't even give me a hug, kiss, nothing.
Or you won't come over here and just sit.
Yeah, you want to sit and talk to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you won't give me, you forgot my birthday 5 years ago. Christmas 2 years ago.
And we hang
December
on to those
25th.
things.
And so,
Yeah,
but do
that's
you
how it
understand
works.
that in that, it's funny when we talk about it because you know it's true. Like the truth is just funnier than fiction. And so when we talk about it, it's funny, but when you're in it, it ain't funny. Like, my husband, my wife does not care about me. I don't know if anybody's ever really loved me. Then you start saying things like that to yourself, and then you convince yourself nobody cares. Even God doesn't care. Nobody loves me. And we can't receive God's love because we don't even know what love is, because we've never received love from anybody else. And so the whole point of this talk is that we have to see how you are loving us, how other people are loving you, and receive their love even if it's not in your language.
Right.
Like if I speak to you in Spanish, man, you can receive that even if you don't have a clue what I'm saying. You just, yeah. I've learned not to always say yeah when people talk to me in Spanish, though. You can be running drugs from Mexico. I don't know what. You say yeah to anything. I don't know what you're doing. I mean, I just got involved in a hit and I didn't even know I was up to it. It's the way life works. But you can still receive. You can learn to receive love, and receiving love that isn't spoken in your language. Then you're starting to tap into what real love is, because real love is sacrifice.
Sacrificing.
It's not an emotional thing. It's not. It's like, I see what you're doing. You're loving me this way. And for her to understand, oh, I see you cleaning the house and doing the dishes. I see you doing these things. Then I receive that as you love me. And then you spend time and you talk and you discuss, how are you?
Yeah, that's a big deal too. Like, he encourages you every so often, or really he encourages you to do it every night. That's a lot of time, but
hers isn't quality time.
But to
Like,
sit
she's
with your
like,
spouse,
here we go again.
to sit with your spouse and ask, how is your love tank? Are you here, or do you feel negative? How?
At times we've come to
We need
these
to talk
talks,
about
man.
it.
A lot of times I'll just say, man, I'm empty. I'm just going through the motion. I don't feel like anybody cares.
So it's good to talk about it, discuss it.
And I mean, you should be honest like that. You like can't say, oh no, and like, I'm fine is not an adequate answer. Like, that's not good. I know a lot of women will avoid confrontation because it's just, I'm fine, and everything stays the same. Man, you gotta say, right now I really feel like zero, like we're just passing time, and I tell her, and I put it, however you say it, I'll tell her, I said, I feel like we're living as roommates. Like, we're good friends and we're really nice people. We we're nice to each other. Like, even when we don't get along, we're cordial. It ain't like I'm, manipulate or like booby trap the house or anything that you know of.
But you gotta discuss it. You gotta really sit down and discuss it. Remember there's this old saying that every person, this is good, you write this down, this is good. Every person needs a look, a word, and a touch. And I was just thinking about that. Honestly, a look, is gonna be your quality time, A word is going to be like a word of affirmation, and then the touch goes along with the physical touch. It's good to just, pat somebody on the shoulder and just look them in the eye and say, how you doing? Or you look good today, or I like your smile, or,
It's funny, man. We're in a society that doesn't touch anymore, and like people are freaked out. Like, there's a lot of germaphobes and freaks and things like that. People are dirty, But really, we're one of the cleanest people. Like, this is the cleanest our society's ever been. So, like, get over yourself, man. People didn't have Germ-X 20 years ago. So, like, but a handshake turned into a fist bump, or, and it's just a passing thing. Like, we don't embrace each other, and nobody, and I don't know if you try this, man, I go to Walmart and I like look people in the eye. Nobody will look you in the eye anymore. Like, if you make eye contact, man, people freak out. And most people are like, what did I do to them? Are they mad at me? They must hate me. And it's like,
that's
all I did is look at you in your eye.
Yeah.
Like, I do it to you guys, though, all the time when I'm talking up here, and you think I'm talking to you. It's like, you'll talk to me after church, man, were you talking to me? Like, I'm like, yeah, I was. Really?
Normally, though, I don't
really.
stare at somebody's eyes. I stare at your mouth because I'm hard of hearing. So like, she won't even look at me. It's like, I'm looking at what you're saying.
Their guitar too loud or something.
Yeah, over the years.
You know how it is. It's always an excuse. It's always my fault. I just admit to it right up front, and we go on about our business. Sacrifice. Love is sacrifice, right? So here we have to work on these things, man, and it's so important that we are able to fill each other's tanks. And you got to fall in love again.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to fall in love again. If your marriage is struggling, you got to fall in love again. How did you get married in the first place? You did something. You sacrificed something. You spoke something.
You got me a necklace.
I bought her a gift.
And took it away.
It was me. You really want to talk about that? We'll talk. Dr. Phil, come on up.
But honestly, that's one of the reasons I
We're
fell
going
in
to need
love
some
with him.
counseling when this series is over. Anybody do marriage counseling? Yeah, I know.
I encourage you guys to get online and you can get on your phone and just take that test real quick and figure out what everybody's going to be a little bit of all of it, but you're going to have a primary love language. You'll have one that really is above usually the rest.
And learning to operate in all of them is so important in life, man. Like you can't figure out why you and your boss don't click because you're speaking different language, man. You gotta figure out what makes him tick, and it's like that with your friends I took the test, and I'll be honest, man, the test is real hard for me to answer about me. The way for me to figure out what my love language is to stop and look what I do for others. And then I started to figure out, because if you would have said, oh, Todd, you have words of affirmation, I'd have been, you're like crazy. I don't care if people affirm me or whatever, but I noticed that I'm always encouraging other people, always affirming. I'm like, I really don't try. I go out of my way to try to build you guys up as much as I can, as often as I can. I want you to leave here feeling like you can conquer the world. And so I start to understand the things about maybe that's something I crave. Maybe that's how I feel loved or cared about. And it's like, what makes you angry? Like when your wife
doesn't fold the towels.
I don't care about that, but like, I don't care if the bed's ever made or what. Now, don't leave stacks on my shelves.
You don't like stacks.
Counters are they're not there for stacks. So, I'm a little OCD, but that's a whole different set of issues we'll deal with some other time. That's not a love language at all. That's just an issue. We got issues out. I just can't. But like, for me, what I found is I get very angry when I'm talking to her and she's on her phone. Like, it makes me angry. And so that tells me, like, quality time is important to me. I think sometimes I feel like I'm the only person in the world who wants to sit down and have an eye-to-eye conversation. Like, I don't think anybody else wants to just, not be doing 5 things at once. I don't like multitasking. I want to do one thing, I want to start it, I want to finish it, and then I want to move to the next thing. And that's just, OCD too, but it goes with the quality time stuff. And so that's how this all works. And so what did Paul say? You can do all of these things, but if you don't, you can do all these things in the world, but if you don't love, then you're squeaking like a rusty gate. And don't be a rusty gate. Like, you leave here today, remember one thing. If you can only remember one thing, don't be a rusty gate. Like, go out there and look at the world around you and say, that kid's crying out for this, and that kid's wanting that, and that kid's wanting this, and I can do that. And start loving the people around you in your life. Start loving your spouse in their language. And then when they realize the same thing and start loving you in your language, man, you're married. No, it's not like just filling my tank for, her filling my tank a little, me filling hers a little. When you start doing each other's, man, your tanks fill up like unbelievable, and your love will overflow. And an overflowing love is the love of God. It's what God's world's supposed to look like. And when we learn to love, and when we learn to receive love, letting people in, I don't think it's until you can let people in and receive love that you could ever begin to understand God's love for you. And if you don't understand God's love for you, man, you're just missing out on the kingdom. You're missing out on what this is all about. It's what makes life fulfilling and satisfying. It's what makes us get up and go every day. It's what makes it good. Don't be a rusty gate. Anything else? All right, you guys stand up with us. Let's pray.